Hello, my name is Matt Bird, and welcome to the PublishU podcast, where we explore the real life stories of authors from around the world. Today, I'm joined by Paul Bulkeley from Southampton, who has written a book called The BizMin Course. Paul, you are welcome.
Hi, nice to be with you.
So, you live on the south coast of England in the wonderful city of Southampton. Does that mean you're a bit of a waterman? Did you get venture out in the waters very often?
I do, yes, I do. That's kind of why I live down here, actually. Yeah, I love sailing, windsurfing, paddleboarding, surfing, and depending on what the wind strength is, I have water sports that suit it. So yeah,
Sounds perfect to me. And where do you love to sail to when you go out take the boat out?
normally back to where I started from, actually. But in that I tend to race, so it tends to
Okay.
be head out for the day, or head out for a weekend, or head out for a few hours, and yeah, back in the bar and hot shower at the end of it.
Wonderful. Sounds great. But your day job, you're not a yachtsman as a day job. You're actually an architect. Is that right? An
Yeah,
architect?
I am. Yeah, yeah. So architect by profession. I set up my own company probably far too young. 1 year after qualifying, I set up my company, and that was 21 years ago. So
Wow.
yeah, been leading Snug Architects ever since.
Snug architects. Why snug?
Well, at the time, we generally did small infill things, and snug was a positive word that wasn't my name, that wasn't some initials, and people seem to remember it. But these days, it's more just a brand name, really. People seem to like it, and we don't do small things anymore. We do big things, but the name stuck. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So do you do residential, commercial? What sort of designs do you work on?
Mixture. I mean, about half our work is large, medium-sized residential schemes, apartments, those sort of things. And then the other half of our work is typically community projects, so churches, community buildings, and then some occasional sort of things that are on the wall behind me, sort of random national landmarks and things that perhaps aren't the normal day job. Yeah, quite a wide range, basically.
Yeah. So, but you've written a book, and the book isn't about sailing or water sports, and it's not about architecture and design. It's something a little bit different. What is it?
Yeah, so the book, the BizMin course, is basically a book that derived from my passion for trying to combine my Christian faith and my business life. Largely derived from my own experiences in business and the sort of journey of trying to work out how does that work, how does that align with my values, etc. And it's also linked in with a whole lot of time I've spent in India and then more recently in Africa and other parts of the world
Oh,
working primarily amongst the local church in those parts of the world, helping develop small businesses, helping get businesses up and running, and helping them, I guess, establish an ethical framework, a framework that aligns with their values. And
mhm.
that's what this is all about, really. It's all about this idea of doing business as ministry,
Yeah.
which is that it's my primary passion, my primary purpose in life, my primary calling, and where I spend pretty much all my waking hours that
Yeah.
aren't at home with my family or out on the boat.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. And what first took you to India? I mean, if that's where you began with it.
yeah, well, I went to India in a year off when I was procrastinating about whether to be an architect or not. I finished my first degree, had really had enough of it, and went off to India for a year. Had an amazing time actually, working in South India for a bit, traveling and just getting to know people in India. And then I had the opportunity to go back in 2007 with a whole lot of students that I was working with at the time, and on the way back from that, I felt called and challenged to go back to India and sounds a bit grand, but to go back to India and raise up a generation of Christian entrepreneurs and equip them to do business as ministry. And I had a very clear sense of what that was about, what I needed to go and do, very clear sense of what I needed to communicate. The challenge was how on earth do you go and do that in a place that's thousands of miles away? But amazingly, over the next 10 years, I traveled, I got invited back to go back to India at least once a year and work with about 2,500 churches across South India, predominantly, as I say, predominantly churches, sometimes charities, sometimes local business people.
Yeah.
Um,
Amazing. And
Things sort of emerged from that really. So that was a sort of the informal entry into this, and the BizMin course in a way is was a sort of more formal outcome from that time spent doing things
Yeah.
in India.
Yeah. And I share your passion, Paul, because, I believe that charity will never end poverty.
Yeah,
Government will never end poverty.
yeah.
Only enterprise and business can end poverty. I mean, uh, tell our listeners, tell us a little bit more about that and how you
Mm.
see business
Yeah, well,
making a difference in communities and ending
yeah.
poverty.
I mean, I definitely saw that, even just my observations in India, having been there originally in 1996, and then that was when India was just coming into the sort of free market world. Um, and just seeing the way in which 200 years of missionary endeavor had not really touched the surface on poverty. I mean, it had put a lot of sticking plasters on a lot of people's lives, and no doubt it made a real difference for those individuals, but poverty was still rife. And within 15, 20 years of going backwards and forwards to India, I remember one year in particular, I traveled extensively for 2 weeks and I didn't meet a single beggar. And that was not because I was hanging out in posh parts of India. I was traveling the villages, the trains, the byways, the cities. I was traveling all over the place, and I just thought, my goodness, the transformation from when I first arrived here. Um, and to be frank, the number one reason for that is they've seen their business world, stirred. And the challenge is that that isn't always done ethically, and it isn't always done in a way which advances the many. Um, and the challenge is, how do you do business in a way which is going to be good for the many, and also, to be frank, in a way which aligns with Christian values and doesn't end up being a conflict in your life all the time. So yeah, that's the real tension that I'm often trying to grapple with, is how do we prosper in business, prosper society, and align with our Christian values.
Amazing.
And that's not something that just sort of happens automatically. You have to kind
Yeah.
of consciously go out there and try and work it out and
Yeah. Yeah.
put some structure around
So the book, the Businessmen course, I mean, it's called a course. It is a course. How many sessions in the course, and what's the journey you
it.
take people on through the
Yeah, so
Businessmen course?
it's a 10-part course. Typically, it's a sort of 2-hour sessions. The BizMin course handbook effectively guides people through that course, and it can be done on your own, but typically it's done in small groups, bit of an iron sharpen iron experience.
Yeah.
So it's a handbook that contains teaching, ideas and concepts for people to understand, workshop activities for the small groups or individuals to kind of reflect on and engage in. Quite a lot of Bible study. I mean, it is a very biblical, sort of Bible-based course. Um, and it moves people through these 10 sessions that go from, why is this important? Why does business need transforming? Into questions around purpose and the way in which our sense of purpose in life might lead us into this, and what's the bigger purpose of it, through to calling, and whether you personally feel called into business. Is that actually where your life's work is meant to be? And then once you've got some of those fundamentals under your belt, we then move into the meat of the course, which is this idea of, what is business as ministry? Now, how do we transform our day job in the workplace into something that is deeply satisfying, aligned with our faith, glorifying to God, achieves significant impact in the world that we might deem to be more than just temporal?
Yeah.
And it does that systematically. So sort of works through a series of the next 4 sessions really on how does that actually work? What does a complete ministry look like? And how does that apply in the context of business? And then it comes into land on the nitty, sort of thorny subject of profiting through purpose, and the whole sort of tension that might exist or be seen to exist between the making of profit and the doing of good. Tries to reconcile that and thinks it does. And then finally comes into land on leaving a legacy, and how do we make sure we sort of build values and culture in our companies that might live out beyond us, might still be going when we've moved on and others are leading the company.
Mm.
So
Right.
it's the core of it really is, how does this become something that we are proud of as a life's work? And for most of us in business, this is where we commit so much of our efforts and so
Yeah.
much of ourselves, and we want to know that that's worthwhile, that it's to be frank, from my point of view, a long time ago, it was a choice between some kind of full-time work in a church, and I just didn't feel that's what God was calling me to do. And I grappled with that. I sort of felt guilty about it at times. I wasn't quite clear on, but over the years that became a lot clearer for me. And you sort of take ownership of what you're doing, and really it's been very helpful for me. So in some ways, it's a bit of a reflection on my personal journey, although my personal journey is not particularly expressed in the course at all. But um, it's derived from
Mm.
many of my own experiences.
Yeah. So it's interesting you're helping people to see business as an opportunity for social change, social impact, social good. There are lots of people, who go to work every day who are just going to work every day to pay them more in this country, going to work
Mm.
every day to pay the mortgage, pay the bills, pay the housekeeping, for the food, and it's just a necessary evil.
Yeah, yeah.
For some, I mean, evil's quite a strong word, but a necessary thing.
Grind. The grind, yeah.
The grind.
Yeah.
There's you going to India and Africa and around the world, helping people find social purpose in work. I mean, how do you square that off? Do you think people in the UK and other countries also need to grasp the social impact of work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two answers to that. I think, yes, I think it really is helpful for everyone to kind of get the bigger purpose of what they're doing. And I think that applies to anyone in the workplace. Um, but the BizMin course is, if I'm honest, primarily targeted at those who lead, run, found, create, um, manage businesses, I guess, people who have an impact on the culture of that organization.
Yeah,
And I think people who are in those positions have the privilege of having more influence and the ability to set the tone, if you like, to set the direction of travel, to decide how things are done in that organization. And with that, I think comes an opportunity, but also quite a lot of responsibility. So, as someone who's been leading a company most of my working life, I don't think I take it for granted, the privilege of being a leader in an organization, but I recognize that most people aren't. But those of us who are have a huge opportunity to improve the working lives of others.
mm,
Never mind the impact our work achieves out in society,
yeah,
just transforming your own company into a great place to work that gives people meaning and purpose is a well worthwhile.
yeah,
And that's one of those kind of hallmarks of what makes a business a ministry, just providing worthwhile, meaningful employment. That's
yeah.
good enough.
Amazing, amazing. So, Paul, your book is now published. It's available worldwide. How does that make you feel?
It's satisfying. It's satisfying after all these years of gestation and creation and trying to get this thing over the line. It's very satisfying. I'm not a great finisher. I'm more of a starter. So it's an uncharacteristic moment in my life. um, there's a reason why I'm not a builder. I don't build the things. I come up with them in the first place.
You start them.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So I need the help of others to get things over the line. So thank you very much, Matt.
Yeah, well, you started this one and you've completed it. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
we're working with us, and we're really delighted and thrilled to have enabled this dream to become real. And Paul, what's your highest ambition
Mm.
for the BizMin course, book now it's
Yeah.
published? What do
Um,
you hope is the difference it makes?
Okay, well, I hope the difference it makes is, well, I hope it gets into the hands of the right people,
Mm,
people who are wanting to see their work life, their business life go to another level. And so a big challenge in these things is getting it into the right hands and the right people. And I do hope it continues to be something that is accessed by people all over the world. I think one of the real privileges on the journey so far has been the massive range of countries and people and nationalities that have tapped in. And it's that sense of something universal that
mm,
actually most of the principles and most of the application is completely geographyless. It doesn't seem to matter where I go in the world, people are grappling with these things. They want to make a difference and they want their work to be meaningful. Um, so yeah, it's not written just for those of us in the UK. It's very much something that I've already seen having a positive impact amongst people all over the world.
yeah,
So I hope that continues.
amazing. So here's to meaningful work that makes an impact in communities and in society.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, Paul, and thank you all for listening to the PublishU podcast today, featuring the real life stories of authors from around the world. If you're interested in becoming an author like Paul, please do visit our website, www.publishu, the letter U, publishu.com. And if you enjoyed this broadcast, please make sure you subscribe for more. Thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye for now.